So I wanted to take a few minutes and create a video for you to go over APA formatting for your essay. I know a lot of us are probably really familiar with MLA, and there are some similarities, but there are some really key differences for APA, so you want to make sure that you get it right. The first couple of things are very similar to MLA. Before you type anything, you want to come up here to File, Page Setup, and make sure your margins are 1 inch all the way around. I change my default so that it's 1/2 inch so I can use more of the page. But if you're using a formal formatting style, you want to make sure that you follow those margin specifications. The next thing is the font. I've got Arial 11. APA doesn't have a specific font that it wants you to use, but it does say that you need to make sure that it's readable and clear. And the one that they suggest is Times New Roman 12-point font. So that's what I'm going to do for mine. Times New Roman, 12-point font. And so you want to make sure that you're consistent all the way through with that. Now, the next thing is one major difference between MLA and APA. APA formatting wants you to have a title page. Instead of just putting a header at the top of your first page, you're going to have a whole separate title page to put your name, the class name, all of that information. So the very first thing that we're going to do is come up here to the top. Double click up here so you can bring up your header. And we put a header on our papers for MLA, but it's going to look a lot different for APA. So the very first thing that we want to do is click this box, different first page header and footer. Because what we're going to type up here is only going to appear on our first page, which is the title page. So you're going to type in this. Oops. Before I type anything, I changed my document to Times New Roman 12-point font. We want to make sure that our header matches that. So you're going to type this, running head, and then in all caps you're going to type the title of your paper. And in the header, you only want the first 50 characters of your title. So if it goes over 50 characters, then put a shortened version of your title in the header. And then we're going to move our cursor over to the right. And this is where we put in the page number. So you go to Insert, Header and Page Number, and then select this first box right here. And then that makes sure that the correct page number appears on every single page. Okay, so then type down or click down in the regular part of your document. And now that we're down here, the next thing before we start typing, want to make sure that everything is double spaced. So we're going to come up here to line spacing and click double. And then we're ready to type our title page. So on your title page, you're going to have the title of your essay, your name, and the institutional affiliation. So that's the place, the educational facility, or wherever you are that you conducted your research. So in our case, that would be your school name. You're going to center it for the title and press enter a couple of times. APA doesn't have a specific place on the title page to start typing your title and all your information, but they do specify that it should be centered in the top half of the document. So just press enter a couple times, and then you're going to type the title of your paper. Press enter one time, then you're going to put your name, and then you're going to put your educational facility, the institutional affiliation. So for us, that's going to be Knightdale High School of Collaborative Design. Okay, so your title page is done. Now, instead of pressing enter a whole bunch of times to get to the next page, what you want to do is come up here to Insert and Break, and then select Page Break. And what that does is it automatically starts a new page. So if you go up here and redo this whole title page, it's not going to affect anything that you type down here. So if you, for some reason, added another line up here, it's not going to make the lines go down on your next page. So before we get started typing our essay, we want to come back up here to the header, because remember on the first page, we clicked this box, different first page, so this is not going to show up in the rest of our document. We do want to make sure that we type what we're supposed to type. So on the first page, it says running head and then your title, and on every other page, you just want your title. So you're going to put it in all caps again. move your page number over to the right, and then you can see that I've gone back to Arial. So once again, we want to select everything up here, make it match everything in our document, Times New Roman 12-point font. Okay, so that is formatted. We're ready to start typing our actual essay. So you're going to put your cursor back over on the left. And if you look up APA formatting online, it's going to talk to you about an abstract. We don't have to include that in ours because our essays aren't long enough to need a separate summary of what the essay is going to be about. So you can leave out the abstract part and just go ahead and start typing your regular document here. And you can include section headings if you want, not in all caps. But it's not required in APA formatting. It's just if you would like them to keep yourself organized, then you're welcome to do that, but you don't have to. I do want to take a few minutes before we talk about the Works Cited page or the References page to talk about in-text citations with APA, because again, they're going to be a little bit different from MLA. So as you're typing your essay, you're going to go through and type you're going to type your introduction first, obviously, and then as you're writing your essay, you're probably going to use in-text citations since this is a research paper. So let me show you the different ways that you might use those in-text citations. Okay, so I've typed a few things in here just so that we can see what it might look like if we have some actual text in here. So in my first body paragraph, I'm ready to add a citation. And remember, the first type of citation you're going to need is if you include a direct quote. So I'm going to put in an example and then show you the different parts of the in-text citation. Okay, so I added this quote, and this is something typical that you might use in your essay. So you would say, according to, and then put the author's last name, and of course I use Dr. Ardent's name. So in this case, we've got a direct quotation, and so there are several pieces that we need to include as far as as far as APA is concerned. So you've referred to the author's last name in your sentence. So right after the author's last name, you want to put the date, the year of publication, and then at the end of your quote, assuming that you have a page number, and if you got this from one of the online databases, then you should have a page number. You're going to put that page number with P period and the number in parentheses after the quote, and then put your ending punctuation after that citation. Okay, so that's one way that this is going to look, and I'll show you two more examples. Okay, so I've added a couple other examples. So we've got this first example with the direct quote where we mention the author first before the quote. Here's another one right here. This one could be for if you are including a quote and then you still have more of the sentence to say with your own words. So we've got our author's last name. Again, we're mentioning it in our sentence. So right after the author's last name, we have the year of publication in parentheses. And then we have the quote from our author. And then right after the quote, we're going to put the page number in parentheses. And then here I've got a semicolon and I'm continuing on the sentence. And then the final way that we might have a quote is if we include the quote before without mentioning the author or any of that stuff. So that might be a quote. We've already mentioned the author and the author's credibility earlier, so we don't need to say all that again. Then you might have something that looks like this. So in this case, right after the quote, you're going to put the author's last name, comma, year of publication, comma, and the page number where that information was found. And so this is what it would look like if you put it at the end of the sentence, or if you have more of the sentence after the quote, you would include the rest of that sentence after the in-text citation in parentheses. So one other thing I'm going to show you is how to do this if you're just paraphrasing information, because remember, if you're quoting things, you definitely need to put things in. You need to have an in-text citation, but you still need to have in-text citations even if you're just summarizing or paraphrasing someone else's information, because that information is still from them and not from your own head. So let me show you what that would look like. Okay, so again, if we're paraphrasing or summarizing, we might mention the author's last name in our sentence. So again, in that case, as soon as we mention the author's last name, we're going to put the year of publication, and then the rest of our sentence where we're paraphrasing that author's information. And then if we have a sentence where we don't mention the author's name, but we're still paraphrasing that person's information. We're going to do the same thing that we did up here. In parentheses at the end of the sentence, we're going to put the author's last name, comma, year of publication, comma, and the page number, all in parentheses with our final punctuation for that sentence after the in-text citation. So once you've covered all of that, you've got your correct citations in the body of your essay, you've typed your entire essay, then you're ready to put your references page, your bibliography on the end. So wherever you finish typing, you're going to come back up here to insert, and you're going to insert another page break here because again, we want our references page to be on its own separate page, and we don't want any typing that we do in the body of our essay to affect the formatting on this page. So if we enter the page break, then that's what it's going to do for us. Okay, so for our bibliography, we're going to center the very first line, and we're going to type references, and then just enter one time, put our cursor back on the left, and now we're ready to format our works cited page. So what you want to do here, well, let's find a citation first. So if I go to my database, then let's see, I want to use this document. So I'm going to cite it, and hopefully you guys remember how to do this. Find my APA citation here. I'm going to copy and paste it. And remember, you can do the Control-Shift-V, or if you right-click and do paste without formatting, because we want it to match we don't want it to have any of that weird formatting. The only thing we need to do is make sure that we go back here, and the journal title is italicized. So I want to make sure I fix that here. Italicize this, and then we want to format it so that the first line of each of our citations is on the left hand side, and then everything else underneath it for that one citation is indented. So we're going to fix our hanging indent. So we want to move this whole thing, the arrow up here, 2.5, and then we move just the top one back over to 0. And so that's what we want all of our citations to look like. So if I were to go back up here and find a different source, the other thing we have to make sure we remember is that our citations in APA need to be alphabetical order. So if I find a citation for this one, APA, this one begins with an M. So when I copy and paste it, we're going to put it above this one. Okay, and so I need to go back and make sure that the title of the journal right here is in italics, just like it is in the original. Okay, so I would continue to copy and paste my citations there and make sure they're in alphabetical order, and then you will be ready to go.